Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HUBB Stock Market Q&A session. Everyone's getting closer to the end of the day, but we have Rob Roy here to answer your questions on the stocks that you want to look at. How are you, Rob?
Great, Dux. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. I'm looking forward to the end of the day. And last week I sort of got you with Donut Day, but this week I think it's a little bit more up your alley. Today is International Dark and Stormy Day. You can go grab one after the close today, Rob.
Dark and stormy. I was like, Guinness. Is that what we're talking about?
Dark and Stormy. It's a rum and ginger beer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not a big rum drinker, so I guess that's why I missed on that one. That my first thought would have been Guinness beer, so because that's what it tastes like to me.
All right, everyone. We already have some questions coming in, which is great. Keep them coming, as Rob is going to be here for the next 30 minutes to answer your questions. And we'll be doing this 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday, so make sure to tune in. Don't forget to click on that like and subscribe button that we have at the bottom there as well. Okay, Rob, what are you going to kick us off with today?
Well, welcome everybody from me. And if you were watching Tuesday night's TradeFinder, you knew I was up in the mountains and back, quick trips, but you do things for family, right? Well, let's look at the Qs, right? I mean, that's where the action is. And we do our market update a bit later. We'll talk more about the S&P, and there'd been a little bit of rotation into the small caps, but that's backed off a bit today. So is that short-lived? The action's still with the Qs and the big stocks that everybody's familiar with. You can see that we tested the 10-day moving average here the previous 2 days on the low. Curious as to whether that was going to hold. So at this point, it just looks like that's pretty classic. Little bit overbought scenario. Come back to the 10-day moving average. How many times we talked about that, Dux? No security in any time frame, gets very far away from the 10-day moving average, and we're moving back up. The question I think is going to be, we have potential to set up, depending on where we close today, for a doji on both the Qs and the S&P. That could make Monday interesting, but as far as today, it's Led Zeppelin, same old song. So
it's interesting. I did read a stat here earlier today that retail traders are really back, Rob. After a 3-month lull, an average flow in the US markets of $1.36 billion a day over the past week. And obviously with things like that, they jump into names that they love and know. Now, let's have a look at Tesla, because they've got their announcement with GM that they're going to be adapting its EV chargers to Tesla's superchargers, which I think will be add up to $3 billion to the bottom line for Tesla by 2030. How is the chart looking after 11 consecutive days of wins?
Yeah, now this awfully vertical move here in Tesla, and certainly having something to put a win behind the sails is, it doesn't take much with Tesla, right? With the way everybody loves it so much. You can see that we ran all the way back up to this resistance area at 220, and then right through it, and then a gap up today. Looks suspiciously like a blow off top to me. So it's been a nice run. I would be a little concerned with trying to chase this move. It needs to come back down. I think a healthier entry would be coming back down to test this 220 level, fill this gap. If we look at the 10-day moving average, notice where the 10-day moving average is, right at the 220 level. I like to look at the DMI for confirmation of moves like this. No doubt that the DMI is saying, yep, there's strength to this move. So I wouldn't look for a whole lot of give back on this, but perhaps we get a point to where we run out of steam a little bit. I do think that wave 5 target there around 280 with a DMI like that is probably in play. I just don't know if it's within the next couple of days. It feels like we need a little bit of a rest after you talked about a record run here, even for Tesla. So a little bit overbought, suspiciously like a blow off top to me today. But we'll see. Strong move, though, no doubt about it. Strong move, and it's backed by, as you said, real fundamentals with Ford and GM creating a deal with them to use their charging stations. So yeah, Elon's smiling today.
Talking about smiling, let's have a look at CELH, Celsius Holdings, for Manuel. If he's been long this for the last couple of months, he's definitely smiling.
Yeah. Did we look at this one last week or the week before?
A couple weeks ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had the run again, got a little bit overbought, back to test the 10-day moving average. looks pretty strong here as well. A little bit different scenario here with the DMI, as you can see. So it needs to hold this area here at 140. So it satisfied the overbought condition. We're back up, we're trying, but notice the difference in where we are with the DMI, where the positive directional indicator has moved down. So some of the buyers have waned a bit. Not a big increase in selling pressure, so it's still okay. But that ADX is starting to work its way back down after hitting a really high level, 60. You don't see that very often. It's really interesting because 0 to 100 is the scale for the DMI. I'm not sure why Wells Wilder created the range that wide, because you hardly ever see the ADX go above 60. But nonetheless, that's the scaling. And if we do have this ADX break back below 40, that would actually be an exit signal. So for the short term, keep an eye on 140. If it breaks below that, might want to look to protect or take profits. And if we break below 40, then definitely that would be at least a short-term exit. Perhaps we're just starting in wave 4. So we got all these wave 3s going. At some point, we have some sort of corrections move in, but wave 3s can run for a while.
All right, there's another good one coming through. It's like a week is a long time in markets. And remember the start of this week talking about Coinbase. And I know a lot of short players were very happy initially, but where do we go to now with Coinbase? What does the chart look like?
Yeah, and that one, I'm just going to take the DMI off because it's pretty non-committal there. And we talked about this last time, Dux, that it's really difficult because of all the regulatory stuff, right? And so we had this move back down based on more regulatory news coming out. It's pretty challenging when you don't know what kind of news along those lines is going to come out day to day. Our regulators are obviously after them. We capped down to 50, which held. That was a support level that needed to hold. It did. But all we've done now is go back up and fill that gap. We've tapped the 10-day moving average on the high today and backed off a little bit. So some concern here. Certainly, if you're looking to go long this, you do it at your own peril, knowing that any day the government could say something that could be viewed as a negative news article. But if it could get back above 60, because that's where the 50-day moving average is as well, it's hard to go long with a stock below the 10-day. I'm concerned right now on whether or not it's coming down to test 50 and can it hold again this time. Perhaps it can. If you heard what Kathy Wood said, she's saying that Bitcoin is going to 1 million by 2030. So obviously that would probably be a positive for Coinbase, but who knows? Anyway, short term here, it looks like it wants to come down and try 50 again, and it's just a perilous stock with all the unknown regulatory news. I think there's other places we can be that are a little more technically sound.
A little bit of commentary coming on the back of looking at Tesla there. To have a look at Rivian and see if it can ride that wave upward as well. Obviously, Rivian's a smaller company than Tesla, but let's have a look at that chart.
Yeah, it is interesting to see what's going to happen with the rest of them. And here, what I see here is something's getting ready to happen, because it looks like a triangle forming. You have the 10, 30, and 50-day moving averages all at the exact same spot right there at 14. So let's see. The ADX isn't really low enough yet. If that ADX had been below 15, 13, I would say perhaps we're building for a breakout. But based on that, it looks like we could churn sideways a little bit longer. But nonetheless, we are forming a triangle here. So probably some patience here with Rivian. And at some point in time, it will break out of that triangle. Just doesn't look ready yet. And if it breaks down, then there's support right away at 12. Tough one to trade here, but I would wait to see a breakout here. If we break to the upside and can get above 15, then you got a good long trade, because there's nothing in the way from all the way up around 2021 where that previous 4 is. That may be in the cards. And if it breaks to the downside, yeah, it'll hit support right at 12, which is not much of a big move to the downside. So I think I would let this consolidation play itself out, maybe a few more days, maybe by the time we talk next week, it'll give us a signal of a move. But if you want a good upward trade, you got to let it break above 15 with follow through, and then you might have something. So But it does look like it wants to consolidate just a little bit longer here in this trading range. It's been in between 13 and 15.
Now, let's stick on that EV space here. I've got a question from Alpha Oscar, who always loves his Oxy, and we'll have a look at that after this. But Lucid, LCID.
Yeah, this one, this is an interesting one too. I mean, really nice looking car, but the stock uh, is not nearly as nice looking as the vehicle is. When you take a look at support here, now, if you were looking for something on a really speculative basis, and I try to always point out, nothing's 100%. We have our indicators that we look at, and we try to find the best technical patterns. When you have a potential speculative trade, that's different than having technicals for some sort of a longer run, a trending type move, impulse move within Elliott wave. This was in a wave 3 to the downside, but it held there in January, and looks like we're trying to form maybe a little doji there today on top of it. So we've got this gap that hasn't been filled yet from the drop below 8. So if you were looking for something for a speculative bounce here, perhaps you could get a short-term jump off of that 6 level, maybe move as high as filling this gap, where the low there was 750. So perhaps a move up to 750. But if it breaks below 6, here comes your favorite expression, Ducks. That's a Katie bar the door there. If it breaks below, who knows where it goes? Probably at least down to 5, and see if it gets some institutional support from those institutions that have aggressive growth as their investment objective. They're the only ones that can own stocks right through here. And if it breaks below 10, then they're in trouble, because they have to, well, they're not in trouble, but they have to start looking at selling, and then the stock is in danger of moving to the pink sheet. So perhaps they hold it here at 6 because there's support, rather than letting it go down to 5. Yeah, if you were looking for, high risk, right? High risk, high reward. So it's risky, but you could do worse than trying to catch a bounce off this 6 support level.
Alpha Oscar was also asking about Oxy. He always likes to look at this stock. So let's have another look for it for this week.
Yeah, he and Warren, right? So lovers of this stock. And one of the conversations that's been on the financial networks today is energy obviously been underperforming, and chatter about, well, if we're not going to have the recession, even though the spread on the 210s indicating a recession is widening again, but let's say we don't, then energy is placed for market rotation. But are we really rotating? We kind of got that head fake, as I said, on the IWM, but when we look at energy, that could be a place. The short term here is that we are forming a very nice triangle here. Let's see if now there's the difference. Notice the difference on where the ADX there is. That one's diving down. Now that one's telling you that we're getting to an area where we're likely to see a breakout. And so if money does rotate to energy, that could easily be an upside breakout. If you're looking from a fundamental standpoint, I can tell you on my drive back last night, the highway was full of trucks. It was an 18-wheeler after 18-wheeler. So commerce is still occurring. And if the consumer wasn't being totally honest in that last consumer confidence survey that we talked about, a few weeks ago, that they're going to have there's going to be a staycation, nobody's going to travel. That isn't what I witnessed on the highway. And tell you, it took 4 hours longer on the trip than it should have because of traffic. So if it turns out that people are moving this summer, that could be the upside breakout, and you could catch a bid in oil and other stocks. So triangles trump everything in Elliott's world, and that's what we look at here, LA Wave. So I think you watch for a breakout here, and if it's an upside breakout, that could really run. So that would make both happy if we got enough. But please be patient on this one. It's a well-formed triangle. The ADX is telling us about to move. So something getting ready to happen here with Oxy, and I think in the whole oil space, honestly.
Yeah, we saw those production cuts from Saudi Arabia to start off the week as well. So they've said they're going to do that through July. So we'll see what happens at the end of that. Next one we're looking at is for Harry. He wants to look at SoFi, and he's telling us that it's hit a 52-week high today.
Yeah, it's, you see some of these charts and it's just, it's mind-boggling. We talked about this Tuesday night in TradeFinder when these vertical moves, it's hard not to want to participate in them, but you just can't chase that. It's too far away from the 10-day moving average. And, it's a point when you hit 52-week highs. A lot of people look at that as, okay, that's a short-term sell signal. And, it could only come down to 8. It may only come down and test that. And so not much lower than the low today, and let the 10-day moving average catch up. The thing that makes me a little bit concerned, we have a triangle back here. And oftentimes when you have this kind of a pattern where you had a triangle and then you get a vertical move, it comes back towards that area, which means that if it does pull back, it could come back as far as 6.5, but it may not do that. I mean, everybody keeps asking me about all this AI stuff and all, and some of the stocks that are making the chips that go into AI, they're catching bids like this too. So everybody wants to know how long can this last, and it's likely going to last longer than people think. Still can't chase a vertical move like that. So I would watch. If it holds 8 and you're long, you already own it, then I would stay, give it that. If it breaks below 8, maybe put some tight stops there and look for a potential another entry a little bit lower. Or if it's a long-term hold, then that could be an opportunity to add to a position, but well above the 10-day moving average, overbought. And last comment I'll make here is when you break resistance, which no doubt it did yesterday and today, breaking above 8 was resistance and it blew right through it. But when you do that and you're already overbought, those are the moves that tend not to hold. You like it better. It would have been better if it would have consolidated under 8 here and then taken off and reached its new 52-week high. So this one to me is suspect on holding 8, but keep an eye on that level and we'll see what happens. But man, these moves are just mind-boggling.
Talking about mind-boggling, I'm still dumbfounded that we didn't have Ford on the show last week. But there's a question here from he wants to know about Ford.
All right, so there's good old symbol F. That tells you how long that one's been around, right? Because of the single-digit symbols there, single-letter symbols, and so again. Vertical moves. And that's why if we do end up with dojis in the markets, perhaps we do get some sort of a little bit of a pullback towards the beginning of next week. But from an old school guy, and my very first car that my dad gave me at high school graduation was a Ford Pinto, which I immediately took out and put a 289 with a drivetrain in it and literally picked the wheels off the ground. So very first car was a Ford. So a little bit of sentimental backing their emotion, I guess, with Ford. Good to see Ford moving is what I'm trying to say. And they're all in on EV, right? I mean, they've made their bet there, and interesting that the fact that they make, they're involved in making this deal with Tesla, and it boost their stock to the upside as well. Seems like maybe, they could be losing revenue, or maybe it's viewed as, well, now they don't have to have the expense of building all the charging stations themselves. So clearly that's the way the market took it, but it's at resistance. It's overbought. Again, all these stocks that we're talking about, Dux, and this is why I'm a bit cautious, is the fact that we're separated significantly from the 10-day moving average. It's at resistance. We hit it there in November. We hit it in January. If it were to try to break it on Monday, it's just, these aren't the kind of moves that hold. As I said, you break resistance, but you do it when you're already bought, you're out of gas, and there's not the staying power. And so I think perhaps maybe a little bit of a tick down, or at best some consolidation under 14, then maybe it takes a look at breaking above that. But yeah, vertical move after vertical move here.
Some great insights there, Rob. Thank you. There's a question, also a follow-up question there. Like, so many small caps are skittering off their support. Now, I want to go a little bit side note here, saying that, like, this, we talked there before about how retail's really jumped back in, and they have been buying the small caps side of it. But usually when you see a short squeeze, eventually that short squeeze finishes. So how are the small caps looking?
Yeah, so here's the IWM, and impressive move here, and you can see, and I actually know some traders myself that had put on some trading range moves here because of how tight this range had been between 170 and 180, and then there's your short squeeze that you were talking about. It was able to get above 180, and so people quickly shorted or covered their shorts because we know the next resistance that had been in for a year or so was 190. So you break above resistance at 180, you're likely to run to 190. Now it's coming back a little bit from, again, the overbought condition. So here's an example of what we've been talking about, the other stocks that haven't started their pullback yet. A little bit of a pullback here with the IWM. But yeah, I think that made the shorts nervous there, looking probably for a move back down to 170, and got caught off sides with the move above 180. I think that the IWM probably tests that 190 at some level, but it's doing what it needs to do. So this is healthy, I think, on the pullback here. And that's certainly an indication of risk on. I wanted to, you talked about the retail traders. So jumping on you here on your bandwagon and looking, there's the XRT from the retail side. Now, the question here is, of course, it's pretty much everybody but Target, right? Has been doing well, and this wave 5, you have a classic, it's as classic as Elliott wave gets. That's why I wanted to show this chart. The wave 4 right at the 38.2% level should yield a 61.8% extension, is exactly where it went in retail, and we've been bounding back. Now we're nearing the point where it's supposed to go at that previous 4. So again, a little bit overbought, so perhaps a little bit more of a drift to the upside here on the XRT. And then we'll find out, I think, as the numbers start coming in over the summer, is the consumer tightening their belt, or are they spending at places other than Abercrombie and Fitch and, Lulu, and the ones that have reported really good numbers. So that'll be interesting to see, but good call there.
When's the last time we were inside a Lululemon store?
Oh, dude, there's one 2 miles from my house. You can't say that. my girlfriend loves the yoga pants, and I keep looking at the men's stuff because that's where the growth has been. And during COVID, everybody was buying their athleisure. I do not own, for the record, any male men's Lulu pants, but my girlfriend absolutely loves the yoga pants and pretty much anything in that store. So I've been in there quite a bit. I just haven't purchased a men's item yet.
All right. I'll got you back.
You thought you were going to get me, but not quite.
I've got a great question here from Will. KRE. Now, we haven't spoken about the banks for a while. They sort of seem to be forgotten. It was the end of the world, seems like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, good question, Will, because you're right. And there's been some chatter with the fact that the spread is widening again on the 210 yield spread. It's at 79%. If it gets back to 100%, that's the level where we had the retail issues before. So could we be heading there again? Now, it looked like it was getting a little dicey here, but we have backed off from resistance at 45. You can see there's a ton of resistance. So perhaps that's a little bit of a saving grace on the regionals. The Fed did open that lending facility, and I think that put a stop to what happened last time. And then they were helped by the fact that the yield curve spread, closed back up, tightened up again. But if we break above this 45 level here on KRE, that could be where we start to see issues. So it's dicey, okay for right now, but definitely something to keep an eye on. So that was a good question, Will, on you want to watch this, because that changes everything, right? We start getting regional banks in trouble again, and that could be the squelch to the rally right there. But yeah, watch 45. It isn't a 5-way to the downside pattern, but we haven't hit a 38% wave 4 correction. So if Elliott was here, he'd say doesn't really count yet till we hit that level. That was his favorite level to start a corrective move. So we could be looking at breaking above that. That's going to be a really good one to look at next week too. So awesome question.
There's a question coming in there from Drew's on the software update. Just reach out to the HUBB team, and they will definitely give you an update on that front. One question, a few other stocks here as we come into the last 5 minutes of the show. I don't know anything about this stock. Lucy, literally is Lucy.
Innovative eyewear, and I wonder if they're in this because I was just reading about. Have you heard about this, Dux? They have glasses now that have cameras in them, and they're
It's like the
geared.
old Google glasses, right? that they tried to
Yeah,
launch.
but this is a deal with Ray-Ban and Facebook Meta, where you can actually push a button and whatever you see on their sunglasses, they look like normal sunglasses. You hit a button and you can do a minute recording with what you're seeing, or you can take a snapshot. To me, it feels a little creepy, honestly. Like a little bit. You don't see the person's eyes. I don't know. So that was my first thought. But I wonder if this is a company that's going to be involved in that. But they say that's coming. You're going to see a lot of them. Ray-Ban's a big name, and they're involved in it. So I'm not familiar with this company either. But if that catches on, as I said, I just read about it today. But if that catches on, then we could see something crazy like this. But for right now, if you're long, you need it to hold 2 here. Otherwise, you're probably coming down to the 1.5 level. So it needs to hold there. But if it can hold and bounce and there's any more news, if you're looking for, again, super risky speculative trade to try to catch another one of these spikes, I think there's a possibility there. But this one, it's got to hold right here. Otherwise, I think you have a lower price before something moves higher. But whole interesting space there. Technology.
Yeah, well, you could buy a $3,500 Apple headset, that's for sure. CXM, which is Sprinkler. I'm more on the social media management side. I want to look at that chart.
CXN?
M for Margaret.
Oh, okay.
That'll be my accent again.
CXM. Why can't I hit the M key?
Charlie X-ray Margaret.
CX. Golly. XM. All right. There we go. Yeah, long night, very little sleep, playing out right now. But you can see, here we go. What a good timing for this question, because we've been talking about all these vertical moves and how they're likely to come back to the 10-day moving average. Here's one that just did. Now the wave 5 is really extended at 134%. It only had a 38.2% wave 4, so that looks a little bit tired there. Could we hold the 10-day moving average? You do have really good support, not too far below here at 13. Let's see if it's looking. Yeah, the ADX didn't quite make it to 40 yet, so there could be a little bit more here. At least test those highs. But your support is 13, a break of support, and then that whole story is over. But for now, it is reclaiming the overbought condition. And once again, you could take a speculative shot here with a supportive DMI, perhaps at least testing the highs. It just doesn't look like it has enough with being that extended already to run to new highs, but everything, could relabel and start over again. But for now, that's what it looks like to me.
All right, the last one we're going to look at is Plug Power, PLUG. And the question that's come in is, what about memes like Plug? Now, we're not going to look at GameStop, even though that question came in earlier. A lot of memes have broken their downtrend. I've heard memes might get a second wave like 21.
From some of the comments that came in during last week's TradeFinder, I wouldn't doubt it. It wouldn't surprise me. It seems like there's been just with this move to the upside here in the market, a resurgence of that. This one's pretty easy right here. You need it to hold 9. I know there's some support lower than 8. So if it broke 9, if you really had a lot of patience, you could maybe hold it until it tried 8 to see if it could get back above. But that one, I think if it was me and it broke 9, I'd want to be out and then wait, see if it held 8 and then broke back above 9 and then re-enter again. But it had a pretty significant move. It's only at 27%, so call it the 23.6% fib level. You want to see it back above that 50-day moving average pretty quickly. But anyways, interesting questions today, Dux, on stocks where you could take a speculative shot. And I'm kind of interested that people are looking for these kind of moves rather than chasing all the big vertical stuff. So that part's interesting. So here, the 10-day moving average right there at 9. So that's my feeling. If it broke 9, it could hold 8. But I think if it broke 9, I'd want to just get out, see what it did with 8, and then wait for it to get back above 9. But if it holds here, that's not a very big wave 4. So it could continue to the upside in that wave 4 corrective move if it can hold 9 and bounce from here. But yeah, that'll be really interesting to see. What a great group of stocks we had to look at today.
No, fantastic. And there's one little comment that goes on the end there, like, I'm okay with telling me it's dumb, but what I learned in finance many, many years ago is there's no such thing as a dumb question in finance. Always ask the question, always happy to look at them, always happy to ask them. Is that right, Rob?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there are no dumb questions, and people have, different levels of experience, whether it be from fundamentals, technicals, whatever. No, I mean, we're here because we want to, help spread information and education to help the average trader, because we know the institutions, that's not their motive. Their motive is for their own bottom line. And so, yeah, we love the questions, and please always ask it. Don't ever think you have a dumb question. No such thing. We will never make fun of a question. I can promise you that. I remember when I started and how little I knew. And we love it. Love the questions.
All right, we're going to be back again 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time next Friday. Rob, good luck with the rest of the trading session. You have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too, Dux. And I may go try a sip of the National Day, whatever that was.
Dark and stormy, mate.
Dark and stormy. Yeah, I may give that a try. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time today. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.